Hello everyone, this is Joshua Smith of Apollo's Artifacts. It is December of 2021. I thought that before we jump into the news, we'd take a look at something really interesting and strange here. This is a fish that was found off the coast of California known as a barrelly fish. This fish has a set of glowing eyes that are embedded inside of its head that you can see here. And I'll let you watch a bit of this video first before we begin the rest of the news. Now, if only the rest of the news were as cool as that. So I'll begin here with the Gateway Pundit. Don't come, we can't guarantee your safety. Los Angeles PD Union Chief gives ominous warning to Americans thinking of visiting the crime-ravaged city. And lately we've been hearing from a bunch of the crazed woke leftists all over the news media trying to deny a massive spike in crime, but we all know that it is true. Their denials, in fact, are even more evidence that it is actually taking place. And we're, of course, forced to listen to idiots like AOC say, "These people are just trying to get bread," as they break into Louis Vuittons and steal a bunch of red bottoms. And yes, the smash and grabs, or looting, is just looting by any other name. Don't let them try to make you afraid to call it what it is. Remember, the beginning of wisdom is to call things by their proper names. And so I'll go with his quotes here as I play this video for you.
My message to anybody considering coming to Los Angeles, especially during the holiday season, is don't.
A sobering and somewhat terrifying statement from the LA Police Protective League, the union representing LAPD officers. The message coming as a crime wave continues to slam the city and surrounding areas.
We can't guarantee your safety. It is really, really out of control. I said it to people before. It's like that movie Purge. Instead of 24 hours to commit your crime, these bad people have 365 days to commit whatever they want.
The warnings seem to resonate with residents.
It's pretty scary walking at night.
Sarah Veenstra moved to LA from Wisconsin about 6 months ago. She didn't realize crime and safety would be such major issues.
I genuinely thought it'd be a safe area. It turned out not to be as safe as I thought. I'm definitely carrying something on me every single time I walk out of the house when it's dark out.
And so there you have it. And remember, the mainstream media tells us it's racist to call the smash and grabs looting. Sorry, but it's looting, and it isn't racist to name it that. And you're not going to be able to intimidate us to call it anything other than what it is. Next, I move over to Natural News, where they have an article on the Evergrande collapse in China. This is something that people who follow these things have known is coming for quite some time now. But it has finally taken place, and it does threaten to pull down much of the rest of China's economy, and it could potentially infect other economies around the world who are tied to these things in China. And as you move down into the article here, you find that another competitor of Evergrande, Kaiser Group, also defaulted on their bonds. And even further down, you see here that it says a collapse of the Chinese real estate market could take down the entire world economy. Sobering news for this sad Christmas season, this dark winter, as Joe Biden said it would be. And from there I go to this article on the Gateway Pundit. Facebook admits in court their third-party, quote, fact checks are protected opinions, but very effective in shutting down conservative content on their platform. And as it says here in the second line, Facebook hired third-party so-called fact checkers around 3 years ago in order to eliminate conservative content from their platform. And that is exactly true. That's precisely what was intended. Same thing with all the rest of these so-called fact checkers. They're always referred to by the mainstream media. And you can find it down here at the bottom, the original sourcing for this material, where you actually see them filing in court that their so-called fact checks are merely First Amendment protected opinions. Here's another article about this from Tyler Durden over at Zero Hedge. Stunning, Facebook court filing admits fact checks are just a matter of protected opinions. And this has emerged in a lawsuit filed by John Stossel, the great John Stossel, a former leftist turned libertarian. By the way, I used to love watching Stossel's reports as a kid growing up in the 1980s. Basically what he did back then is what Project Veritas does now. And as we see a great summary of this right here, it says such so-called fact checks are now shown to be simply an agenda to suppress free speech and the open discussion of science by disguising liberal media activism as something supposedly factual, noble, neutral, trustworthy, and based on science. And remember, this is the group of people who say that they believe in capital S science. And really, this is just more confirmation of what we already knew to be true anyway. Here we move into the news of the very strange and bizarre from the Gateway Pundit. Pure evil. The United Nations unveils a statue at its New York City headquarters that resembles the beast from the Book of Revelation. At minimum, I would say this does look like some sort of chimeric beast entity. And in some ways, this is reminiscent of the Vatican hosting the Pachamama from South America, which is a demon creature that was brought into the Vatican itself, very much against the views of conservative Catholics around the world. But Pope Francis, the Red Pope, the Communist Pope, is all too happy to bring in these sorts of sacrilegious things. Now I'll move over to other news emerging from a crazed lunatic money junkie, Jim Cramer, who is a money junkie in the way that a heroin junkie obsesses over heroin. From the Gateway Pundit, today we have the strongest economy I've ever seen, proclaims CNBC's insane lunatic Jim Cramer less than 1 week after Team Biden asked the media for more favorable coverage. And of course, this is the same kook who said to keep your money in Bear Stearns years ago, right before it collapsed. The same kook who said that the military should be used to run around house to house and forcibly give vaccine injections to those who refuse because he is a money junkie.
Right, first of all, to me, we have the strongest economy perhaps I have ever seen. See that number this morning, the unemployment number? It's the best in years. It's not best in 69. We have all spotted the endless help wanted signs, the housing and apartment shortages, the tremendous demand for goods and services.
Tremendous demand. That's what he calls it. When the shelves are empty, when the supply chains are completely broken all around the world. This man is a liar and a lunatic. Never listen to him.
I haven't heard a thing from CNBC. Although Jim Cramer did write an article for MainStreet.com complaining that we had unfairly used a video clip out of context to make it look like he recommended buying Bear Stearns stock a week before it collapsed. Okay, I was wrong. Actually, it's true. He wasn't saying to buy Bear Stearns. He was simply saying that if Bear was your broker or that your money was at Bear, your money would not disappear. He was not addressing the value of holding Bear stock. So, Jim Cramer, I apologize. That was out of context. Technically, you were correct. You weren't suggesting to buy Bear Stearns. That was something that you did 5 days earlier in your buy or sell segment.
I believe in the Bear franchise. You know what? It's $69. I'm not giving up on this thing.
Yeah! Of course, while Cramer wasn't giving up on Bear at 69, 11 days later, the stock market was more comfortable with it at 2. But it's all sort of equivocal. It's on. I'm reiterating. I like Bear at 60s. I like Bear in 70s. He's not saying literally, I'm asking you to buy Bear Stearns. For that, you'd have to go back a full 7 weeks before the stock completely collapsed.
I'm asking people who are watching this video to buy Bear Stearns.
Now, that was 7 weeks.
And there you have it, folks. Jim Cramer, money junkie, liar, dirtbag. And so now let's move over here to the Gateway Pundit. Inflation skyrocketing. Prices up 6.8% over the last year, the highest level in nearly 40 years. And this here is the economy that the money junkie lunatic liar Jim Cramer says is fantastic. And I have to tell you this, if you don't know already, they've changed the way that they calculate inflation 2 different times. And the reason they did this is so that it captures less of the marketplace in order to show a lower amount of inflation. So they change out multiple different items on the indices so that you can't really keep up with what the actual inflation rate is unless you go here. Go to John Williams' Shadow Government Statistics Alternate Inflation Charts. And here you will see, based on the 2 previous systems of calculating CPI, where we would be based on those. So here's the one from the 1990s that would show that we are over 10% inflation right now. And you can see from the chart it's catastrophically high over the last 20 years in general. Then let's move down here to the way that they calculated consumer inflation rates from the 1980s model, and you'll see that we are matching the astronomical highs of 1982 here at nearly 15%. Oh, but wait, what's this? What do we find over at Zero Hedge? And just like that, inflation is about to disappear. And we see here that they are, of course, considering changing the definition of the CPI and inflation rates once again in order to fool the seemingly easily fooled public, except for all of us know how much everything is costing us nowadays. And I'll move down in the article a bit here. It says, sadly, our feeble attempts at humor were not unjustified. And as any economic history buff knows, the U.S. dramatically changed how it calculates consumer inflation back in the 1980s. An event extensively covered by AllianceBernstein former chief economist Joseph Carson on this website in the past, with the most important difference being that while the CPI of the 1970s included house price inflation, the current measure does not. And of course, we all know homes are up right now between 30 and 50% across the country, depending on where you live. Instead, home price pressures have been swept in the purposefully nebulous owner equivalent rent, which can be whatever politicians want it to be. There have been other definitional changes, and they have 4 of those linked here that you can check out. Bottom line, however, is that if today's CPI did include house prices in its measurement, the currently reported inflation numbers for house price inflation would push CPI and core CPI into the double digits, well over 10%. And inflation at levels like this, of course, eats away at your savings, and it means even if you got a raise on your job this year, it certainly was not a raise that would keep up with the current inflation rates. And finally, I come over here to Zero Hedge, also not free. CBO reveals Biden's Build Back Better plan could cost over $3 trillion. This is, of course, the one that Biden lied about and said would cost nothing, but we all know that he's a fool and a liar, so none of that is a surprise at all. And now I get ready to cover several articles about COVID. If you want to see those, you'll have to switch over to Rumble to see what I upload there, because YouTube will not allow me to discuss COVID here or the COVID vaccines. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.